Hello Steelers, and welcome to this review video of Muddy Paw Terrain. Now the guys over at Muddy Paw Terrain over in the US very kindly sent me 6 of their pots of their new poly terrain. This is interesting stuff. As I said, these guys are based in the US. They have an Etsy store which I will link in the description down below. I just want to make you aware here, if you're buying them in the UK, then the postage is going to be quite expensive, so you might want to buy quite a few to alleviate the postage prices on there. I did check and it is quite expensive. However, these are retailing over here in the UK, in UK pounds, for about £11.88 I think it works out at, which is probably somewhere about $15 to $16. I'm not entirely sure because I can only see the UK version of Etsy over here. But that said, they've sent over 6 of these basically tubs of basing material. Now this stuff is really good actually, and I'm going to show you how it works in a little bit. I'll show you the colours in a second, but I'm going to take you through the steps of how you basically use this. It dries rock hard and it is activated by water. It's a very simple use basically, so you can use this on your bases or even as modelling material as well, for making models of tanks and things. So you can use it as grime. They've sent all 6 of their products, and let me just quickly go through them. So we've got platinum here, we've got tan here, we have pearl, grey and black, and then last one is field stone as well, which is probably of all of them, I think this is probably my favourite one, the field stone, because it's quite a nice mix of colours. But the thing is, because they dry so rock hard, which I will show you later on, you can paint them, you can also ink wash them, dry brush them, so you can kind of make them into your own as well, and they've got a really nice little texture on them as well. Right, what I'll do is I'll change the camera up and we'll have a look at the colours of them here, and then I will show you how these work. And it is incredibly simple, and I'm very, very impressed with these. So let's just have a look at them in their colours. Okay, so here are the 6 bottles. Open up so you can see the colours of them. From the back here we've got the fieldstone, this is the grey, this is tan, then down the front we've got the black, we've got the platinum, and we've also got pearl as well there. So I would probably argue that these 3 at the front here are probably a little bit more science fiction kind of stuff. I mean, you could use them, like lava or something, or snow even for the pearl ones, whereas the ones at the back are a bit more in inverted commas historical, shall we say. So fieldstone, as I said, I think is probably my favourite one, just because it looks it's got a little bit more texture in it than the other ones. Tan is good for deserts as it stands, and then the grey one is somewhere in between those two. Now you could quite easily just mix any of these ones together to make whatever colours you wanted anyway. They're all quite muted colours here, so they would all work quite well together. You could really be interesting to mix in the pearl with the fieldstone, see what you get. And of course as well, once they've dried anyway on your base, you can ink wash them and also paint them and dry brush them and just make them slightly different to what the actual colours are here, which is actually what I'm going to do later on when I show you how these work. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to get those onto a couple of pieces of plastic card, and I will paint a couple up and just show you exactly how these things work anyway. But that's just to give you a quick idea there of the colours of them as they are in the pots. Right, so let's try these out as promised. It does say that you can use water just to set these. I did try that before and it didn't work so well, but what I'm doing here is I've got a little piece of plastic card. I'll do a couple of others of these as well, but I'm just using a square of plastic card that I've got spare, and literally all I'm doing is I'm going to put some PVA glue, this is undiluted PVA glue, across the top of the plastic card. As you can see, this plastic card is, I haven't scored it or anything, so I'm just literally doing this. This is, your most basic surface. So basically we put some PVA glue across, we get some of our material, sprinkle it over. It does say to leave it at least for an hour, maybe more if you can. 24 hours is probably preferable, and basically we just sprinkle that over there. This is to dry, so then tip that back into there. So that's our material on there. I'll tidy that up in 1 second. And then once you put this on, you then use a little bit of water and I've got this little spray bottle here. You can also do a pipette or something, and it just says to basically dampen the poly material. Don't flood it, but just damp it, and then just leave it to dry. And it does say depending on how thick the material is that you put on is how long you should wait. But obviously, I mean, 24 hours is always going to be better. I can just see that that's just slightly wet, so I'll put that to one side now. We'll come back to that later on. So we've let it dry for a while, and you can see here it is actually pretty damn solid. You'll probably hear that. It sounds like, I don't know, stone or something. So you could obviously quite easily just leave it as it is. It looks okay, you know. It's quite a nice pattern there on the stone itself. But what I'm just going to do here is very quickly add some Agrax Earthshade wash to this. It's quite an expensive wash, so you might not want to do this on large areas. See if there's any cheaper washes, or make your own, or even just thin down some other paints. But I'm just doing this really as a demonstration here of what I've done elsewhere. So I'm literally just washing this, and the reason I'm doing this is because I want it kind of, all of it just to kind of come together in one colour, and that's really what the wash is doing. So I've done that, and I will now leave that to dry. And then our almost final thing to do is just very simply and lightly dry brush some light brown or fawn or khaki or whatever you've got over the top of your piece here. Again, just to really merge in these stones together, just to pick out those highlights, just to give them a little bit of a colour there as well on top. Quite a strong highlight if you like, you know. I'll just give you a bit of a look of some dried mud there, just to, as I say, pick out those stones and things. Remember, if you're doing this on a base of a vehicle or a figure or anything that you're currently painting, this will soon make it pop. And then your very, very, very final stage of this is just to dab on a bit more PVA glue here across here. This is a very classic look for Wargames bases. We're just going to drop some static grass on this when I've got some PVA in various patches here and there, just up to the edge of the base itself. Then sprinkle over some static grass. You can use an applicator if you like. I never bother because I use quite thin static grass anyway, so it doesn't really matter that much. And then let that dry, and that's your base finished. Well, there you go, folks. There's your Muddy Paw terrain base. So that is a very quick, simple job done, really. It looks good, I think. I'm very pleased with that. I mean, this stuff is really nice, I think. It turns out good. It's you get quite a lot in your tubs anyway. I'm not entirely sure how big these tubs are, but you know, there's quite a lot there. You do lots and lots of bases of them. As I say, there's 6 different colours to choose from. You can mix and match and mix those ones as well anyway, just to make it a bit more interesting for yourself. You know, I know they've sent these through as a review, but I'm very, very chuffed with them, and I'm not just saying that because they sent them, but I thoroughly recommend these. As I say, I think the only issue is possibly the postage, just for if you're in the UK. But if you're in the US, you can, you know, get these probably relatively cheaply. I couldn't work out how to look for the postage on Etsy, but you can check that out yourself. I'll put, as usual, a link in the description down below to their Etsy store. And if you are in the UK, I would suggest buying a few at once just to swallow up some of that postage as well. Right, I'll leave it to that, folks. If you've enjoyed this, let me know. Have you used Muddy Paw terrain stuff, or are you going to? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you, of course, in the next Storm of Steel video.